Okay, so next what we want to do is talk a little bit about what you can expect during this course this semester. And I will start by referring to the textbook, which hopefully each of you has acquired at this point. This is our textbook. It's entitled Listen. And that's exactly what we're going to do this semester. We're going to listen. We're going to listen to music, all kinds of music. We're going to start by exploring the music that you, as an individual, each person in the class is listening to now and finds to be meaningful to your life. But we're going to start with the music that you listen to, and then we will transition into the music that is contained in the textbook. Okay, so essentially what we try to do with this class is to traverse the history, at least as we know it, of Western music. When we say Western music, we're talking about essentially Western European classical music, approximately from 1000 AD or 5600 AD, something like that. That's what we call the Middle Ages. We'll talk more about that as we go. But from 1000 to 1500 years ago is about as far back as we know about this music, up into the present day. So that's an awful lot to try to do in the course of one semester. You can spend a lifetime studying one single composer, let alone the entire history of this music that we call Western music. But what we try to do is to sort of hit the highlights and discover a little bit about, what the last 1500 years or so of music, what it is, and where we started, and where we are now, and how we got from there to here. So again, listen. That's what we're going to do, is listen to music and discuss it. So I want to talk a little bit about what I call the art of listening. You'll find some information in the course folders. The module number 1. There's some information about this, but I want to share this now. This is what I call the art of listening. And listening, to me, or the art of listening as I've defined it, it's comprised of 3 basic ideas, 3 basic things that we do when we listen to music, or 3 attitudes, 3 modes of listening, if you will. And the first one is that of receptivity. Okay, so if we're going to listen to something, if we're going to learn anything from it, if we're going to learn how to appreciate it, as the title of the course would indicate, we have to be receptive. We have to be open to what we're hearing. And I think this is very important because I know I, for one, as a person, as an individual in my life, I spent most of my life not being very open, not being very receptive to a lot of things that I hear. I'm 35 years old, and it was in my mid to late 20s when I first really started to kind of open up a little bit and consider, other viewpoints, not just musical, but other viewpoints as well. But in any case, what I'm trying to say is I spent most of my life kind of having a one-dimensional approach to music. And I'll give you an example. Well, you see on my shirt here, The Doors. I don't know if you are familiar with the band The Doors, but this is a band that was around in the late 60s, very early 70s, and it's, I guess, rock music, if you will. Although, what does that really mean these days? I don't know. But in any case, this is a kind of music that when I was a kid growing up in kind of a conservative Christian type of home, I really wasn't allowed to listen to music like The Doors, or music like, anything that wasn't, approved, if you will, by my parents. And so as I grew up, I kind of I just developed this kind of closed-mindedness towards music. And I think that's the way a lot of us tend to be. A lot of us tend to be very opinionated and very clear cut in terms of the kind of music that we want to listen to, and the kind of music that we think is good music. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, as I have developed as an individual over the past decade, we'll say, I've learned to become more open, become more receptive to music. and to all kinds of things, but especially as it relates to music. I've learned to open my mind, and as a result of that, my life has become much more rich and much more diverse. And I've learned to appreciate all kinds of music. And in fact, I can't really think of any kind of music that I just simply don't like or couldn't get into. I mean, I'm not crazy about music of the 80s per se, although, aside from the way that the music is recorded, the way it sounds, I would say that there's lots of music to be appreciated from that decade. Um, but I could give you a list of all kinds of music: country music, bluegrass music. Um, the list would even classical music. Although I studied this kind of music in college, I wasn't really that into it. I couldn't appreciate a Brahms symphony, or a Mozart piano sonata like maybe I can now. And again, it has to do with the fact that I've learned to be receptive. I've learned to be open to new things and to new kinds of music. So that's the first thing I kind of want to say, is that as it relates to the art of listening, I think it's important for us to be open. If you're not even receptive or open to what you're going to hear, whether it's Gregorian chant or something that one of your classmates posts or whatever, if you're not open to it, well, the conversation is kind of over, and you're going to miss out. I'm not saying that you're going to love everything that you hear, but if you're not open to it, you can't even find out. So receptivity is very important, and that's the first pillar of, again, what I call the art of listening. The second part, or the second pillar, if you will, would be attentiveness. Okay, so attentiveness basically just speaks to the idea that you got to pay attention to what you're hearing, and as you will discover, I mean, I would think most of you, or a lot of you at least, you're going to listen to music in this class in a way that you've never listened to it before. And what I mean to say is, there's so much complexity and so much depth in so much of what we hear, and really I think oftentimes we don't pay attention to it. We're not aware of it, and so that's what we learn how to do in this class, is to pay more attention, to pay closer attention to what we hear. And I mean, you can even do that now as you're watching this video, if you just stop for a minute and sit silently. So I'm in my office now, and I'm hearing all kinds of sounds. I mean, it's a quiet room, but nobody's here. It's over the weekend. I'm kind of doing this, over the weekend or whatever, this video that is. But if you just sit and listen, I can hear there's a clock ticking. I can hear the ventilation system. There's some kind of weird, I don't know, this is kind of a new office to me, and there's some kind of weird vibration that happens over here. I don't know if it's a result of the HVAC system or what, but I can hear myself breathing. You'll hear little creaks here. There's all kinds of sound information that's coming in, and yet as we go about our lives, we sort of phase it out, we tune it out, where we're not really aware that it's happening. Well, the same kind of thing occurs in music. When you're listening to a piece of music, let's say something by the Doors, I mean, I can tell you off the bat what to expect because I know what that band is all about. I know the instrumentation and everything, but if I was to listen to a piece of Doors music for the first time, I mean, there's going to be an awful lot to sort through, all the various instruments and the various overdubs and that kind of thing. If we're listening to, say, like, again, I mentioned a symphony. My favorite symphony, really my favorite piece of orchestral music of all time, is Brahms Symphony Number 3. If you listen to the symphony, just the layers and layers of sound and of harmony and of melody, I mean, it's just incredible how much is there. I've listened to that piece of music, probably dozens of times. It's a 45-minute symphony, 4 movements, and I've listened to it, if not 100 times, at least dozens of times. And every time I hear it, every time I listen to it, I discover something new. Because when I turn it on to listen to it, I'm paying attention. I'm not just simply putting it on as background music, as I think a lot of us maybe tend to do when we're listening. So that's the second area. We talked about receptivity, being open, and then the second part is attentiveness, really paying attention to what you hear, the various components, and really what they sound like, and what it is that you're hearing, just trying to sort through the various layers of what's happening in the music. So attentiveness, okay? So the third thing, and I think the third element, the third aspect of the art of listening is probably the most important, and that is repetition. Okay, and repetition is just that you listen to something over and over and over again. And again, I mentioned the Brahms Symphony that I'm crazy about. I've heard it so many times, and it never gets old. I love it more and more the more that I listen to it, and that's key. That's crucial. Now, with what we listen to in this class, we don't probably have the time or the luxury to sit and listen to something, over. And you guys are busy. I mean, you're taking this class as part of your college experience and all. And you're probably not going to do that repetition factor quite as much as you would need to if you're really going to understand something. You're really going to learn to appreciate it. But nonetheless, I think it's important to address that repetition, how important that is. And I'm sure each of you could say, if you were to, refer to your favorite song or something a song that you love a lot, I'm sure that it's a piece of music that you've listened to many, many times. And again, I think that you would all say that each time you listen to it, you appreciate it that much more and maybe discover something new in it that you hadn't heard before. So anyway, look at the textbook, look at the title. That's what it's all about. We're going to listen to music, and it's kind of hard to, like if we were doing this face to face, we all come into a classroom and we sit down together and we listen together, and in the moment, that's kind of a special thing, and I think you gain a bit more out of it. So in this online environment, there are certain aspects, listening would be one of them, that are kind of harder to address, to assess, and to quantify, if you will. But that said, I mean, I do think that this is a worthwhile course to take online, or otherwise I wouldn't be teaching it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm counting on you guys when there's a listening assignment or required listen, you got to do it. You can't just brush it off or whatever. I encourage you all to use, I think, to use a good set of headphones, whether it's like your earbuds or headphones or whatever. I think it's important to find a time when you're going to listen to this music and you're going to respond to it. You need to make sure that you filter out all distractions. And if you've got kids at home, believe me, I know how hard that is, but try to find some time after they go to bed or before they get up or something, when you do the coursework, for this class. And if you're more of a traditional, college age person, maybe you got roommates or whatever. What I'm trying to say is when you listen to music and you do the listening assignments, you got to make sure that you use some headphones and really try to immerse yourself in it and take it seriously. And again, what are those three pillars? Art of listening, receptivity. Let's be open to what we hear. Attentiveness. Let's pay attention to what we hear. And then repetition. As you listen to things over and over, that's really the key to learning how to love music and incorporate it into your life in the most meaningful way, I think. So anyway, I think that covers kind of what I want to address here in these opening video clips. I may be sharing more of these as we go. Kind of depends on how busy things get. I think for the most part, this kind of class, it really does just kind of take care of itself. If you do the reading and you participate in the discussion posts and listen to the music and that kind of thing, I think you'll get a lot out of it. I always do. So anyway, with that said, I'll let you guys go for now. And if you have any questions, again, message me on Blackboard and let's get started. Let's have a good semester and let's learn a lot. So, all right, more to come later.